Hello, and welcome to Sustainable Outlook, a podcast from global law firm K&L Gates, where we discuss the transactions, technologies, and trends in the sustainable economy. We hope you enjoy this discussion. Please reach out with suggested topics or guests, or questions about how we can work together to create a sustainable economy.
Welcome to this episode of Sustainable Outlook. I'm Elizabeth Crouse, partner and co-lead of the Global Power Practice at K&L Gates. I'm joined today by Bentina Terry, who is Senior Vice President of Customer Strategy and Solutions for Georgia Power. Bentina is a woman of many talents. She formerly practiced labor and employment law and has worn many hats, particularly at Southern Co., from compliance and ethics to corporate services and power delivery and legislative affairs. She is also very active in her community and has been honored several times for her leadership and influence in Atlanta and Florida. We are so honored for you to join us today, Bentina. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, let's go ahead and get started. I think one of the really interesting things about your career, Bentina, is you've worked for utilities for many, many years. And I've witnessed the transition from fossil fuel to an ever-increasing amount of renewable generation. However, in the power industry, I think we can all acknowledge that we have some pretty big challenges, whether we're thinking about congestion or electrification, or even extreme weather, which of course is a very big topic, particularly out on the West Coast right now. Where do you think utilities should focus their attention today?
At Georgia Power, we're about 140 years old, remarkably. And in all those years, we've always been focused on providing clean, safe, reliable, and affordable energy to our customers. And when I think about what our mission will be in the future, that won't change. I do think that what the conversations about sustainability ask us to think more broadly about is this concept of how we make sure we focus on our customers in the short term and the long term. And I have a niece who is 30 years old. And when I think about sustainability, I think about her. I think about her kids. And even in my role as a provider at the utility, her kids that she's going to have, she hadn't had any yet. I think about the fact that we have really got to be there for our customers through this energy transition. And so our focus will remain the same: safe, clean, reliable, and affordable energy. But the way we think about that and how we provide that to our customers will continue to evolve and change with their needs and expectations.
Okay. So I guess just to probe on that a little bit, you're thinking really about the customer here. Give me an example of what you mean by sort of the short-term focus and the long-term focus.
Yeah, I would say that as an industry, when we started thinking about customers producing their own electricity, for instance, whether or not that was a behind the meter technology or wanting their own solar, I think our first reaction was to see that as a threat. And what I love about what the industry is doing now is what we're saying to ourselves is that's not a threat. That's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to better serve our customer. We know energy better than anybody else. And so if I really, truly want to be an energy advisor to my customer, what I need to do is sit down and try to provide 360-degree solutions to my customers as a whole. And that means I might need to bring partners to the table that can help my customer better do something, or I might be able to provide it. And so if a customer comes to us now and says, we want to have solar energy as a part of our portfolio and our mix, what we say is, let us figure out how we can do that with you. You may own it. We may own it. Either way, we're going to make sure that you have the type of energy that you want for your business. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, though, that what that focus on the customer and on kind of serving the customer in the long term has meant for us is that we have changed our portfolio, right? We have more renewable energy in our portfolio. It has increased by more than, we have the largest voluntary solar portfolio of any energy company in the United States. And what I mean by voluntary solar is we don't have a renewable portfolio standard or a mandate from a commission or a mandate from a legislature to have more solar in our mix. We've done that on our own. And that's about long-term solutions for our customers. We've also, of course, incorporated battery technology and have gotten permission from our commission to do that. Again, that wasn't someone telling us we needed to do it. It was us thinking about the long-term energy needs of our customers. So when we talk about that, that's really about how we can support the customer and put the customer at the center of everything that we do.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting and really compelling that you all are doing so much voluntary adoption. I think at a certain point you have to ask yourself, does that work for the business? And clearly you all have determined that it does. Uh, were there any particular issues that you all had to think through about changing the approach from, oh gosh, this is a threat to, oh no, this is an opportunity?
So while solar is not, of course, a new technology, it's
No,
new for
not
us
at
to
all.
be deploying. I know, right? It's new for us to be deploying it at the scale that we're talking about deploying it at for our customers. And so we still have a lot to learn about how it operates, a lot to learn about how you pair that with battery technology in order to be able to meet the needs of our customers. And so we're learning, along with everybody else, how to make the best use of these technologies for our customers. As we've continued to see the cost curve on them decline, that has, of course, made it easier for us to say to our Public Service Commission and partner with them that these are cost-effective technologies for our customers, right? This isn't pie in the sky. This isn't a lot more expensive. So we're learning how we tie it into the grid. We're learning how we use battery technology with it. All of that in order to serve our customers, but it's
Mm-hmm.
different for us.
Well, I mean, I think that's probably especially true now that we've got some changes in the tax credits so that they can be more easily used by utilities, but we don't need to go down that road. But I do want to touch on one thing that you mentioned. You all have been adopting solar at scale more recently, and the Southeast is very clearly getting more and more attention from the renewables industry. From the utility perspective, is that a good thing? And what do you, as a utility in the Southeast, need from the renewables sector in order to keep that moving?
Yeah, we think it's a great thing for our customers. And it's a great thing in two perspectives. One is, of course, the energy provided through those renewable resources. But second, for those renewable companies who are suppliers, who are landing jobs, and in our particular in Georgia, it's good for Georgians, right? It's jobs for Georgians in the clean energy sector. We've been excited that Georgia has become a place where companies who are clean tech, that of course includes the ET ecosystem, are deciding to land in Georgia. So we're excited about that. That's good for our customers and our communities. But if I move down to of course, talking more about the energy perspective of it, we know that it continues to provide low cost energy. It allows us, we've reduced our carbon fleet by 50%. And we've been able to do that because we've been able to bring on renewable energy resources and nuclear to be able to do that. What we need is partnerships, right? So there are companies that want to continue to land in Georgia. There are companies that want to build renewable energy resources in Georgia. And what we say to all of them is, we want to be your partner in this. We want to figure out how we can work together in order to meet our customers' needs.
Mm-hmm. What does that partnership look like? I mean, surely you're not just thinking about sort of the legal structure, you're thinking about a relationship.
Yeah, we are. That is perfect, Elizabeth. You are exactly right. We're thinking about a relationship. So we're saying, come to us, talk to us, help us figure out how we can meet those customers' needs. Talk to us about where you're thinking about siting it so we can talk to you about what may be the best places to site it, right, in the ways that we can talk about it legally. But it is much, much better for us. What we love is we have some partnerships with customers who come to us and they say, hey, we want 24/7 renewables. And of course, that's a lot since solar only has a 30% capacity factor, right? And we say to them, okay, let us understand your long-term plans. Let us figure out who else we might need to bring to the table. And let's figure out how to get you what it is that you want and expect. And so is that kind of what I'd say open arms or open door type of philosophy that we think is good for our customers and our communities.
Well, let's change direction a little bit. You've consistently really highlighted the focus on customer, but you just said community, which is, I think, really important these days. Energy justice is finally getting the attention it deserves at the federal government level and in a lot of the states. What do you think are the most important aspects of energy justice, community focus, community support for people working in the power sector to understand?
What I tell the team, Elizabeth, to think about is in every equation, ask yourself, okay, how does this impact the least among us, right? How does it impact our income qualified customers or communities that are historically disadvantaged? And I think our goal is to have the benefits of this new energy revolution move equitably to all customers. And so everything from ET charging infrastructure. So what we've done is worked with our commission to say, in those places where a company is not interested in putting a charger, we'd like to put a charger there because we know that 40% of Georgians are renters and that community charging infrastructure will be important for them. We want to work with ET producers to figure out how we get low cost electric transportation to our customers. We want to work with our cities and our transit authorities, of course, to increase the capacity and the number of electric buses that we have. And so in that particular sector, we want to make sure that those customers have access. The other thing that we've done in cooperation with our commission is we have an income qualified community solar program. And what that allows corporations to do is, because what I love about living in Atlanta and Georgia is there's so many corporations who see energy as a part of their mission and equity as a part of their mission. And so that a corporation can buy into community solar so they can buy down the cost of that. And then a subscriber who is an income qualified customer can then buy into community solar for the remaining piece, which is small. And so that allows those customers to have access to solar, and it allows corporations to fulfill their mission of making sure they're providing or doing equity within our communities. And then, of course, we've got energy assistance programs, and lots of utilities have that. But ours, I think, is world class to help customers with their bills. You know, energy efficiency is the first fuel, right? And so the more we can do to help with the envelope or the house that people live in so that they can be more energy efficient, the better that we can be, and we can help them have more equity. That gives them more income to spend on other things besides energy. And so, and then we're just working to expand our income qualified programs. We want more customers to be able to access those programs so that they're able to do what they need to be able to participate in this energy revolution. I think that the thing that concerns all of us is that all of these great things we're doing around energy become things that only the affluent can take advantage of. But we know that the advantages are so important to all communities, and that the impacts of us not getting this right, it more often hits historically disadvantaged communities. We saw that in what happened in Texas. We see that with climate change. It's going to impact communities of color and low income communities or income qualified communities. So we want them to have the benefits of all of this so that we can reduce the burdens to them.
That's really interesting. And I think, those are all programs that have been adopted in some parts of the country. And I'm really, really glad to hear that you all are doing them. It sounds like you all are really putting a lot of effort into it, as well as expanding the programs. But what about the other side of this? What about siting? What about where you're putting the power plant? You mentioned nuclear. I understand Southern Co. is moving towards nuclear again. Obviously, some people are still scared of nuclear because of what's happened in the past and in other countries. How does siting factor into some of your focus on energy justice?
Yeah, I think that when it comes to siting, so on the two new nuclear units, just to be a little clear on those two, those are Vogtle 3 and 4. Vogtle 3 is synced to the grid here in the last couple of weeks, which means that plant is in the final stages of coming online. It is awesome because these are only two new nuclear units being built in the United States. And so Vogtle 4 has done functional hot testing. And for the nuclear people out there, they know what that is. But for those of us that aren't, it's just a pretty big deal. So Vogtle 4 should come on, I think, next year. And so nuclear is extraordinarily exciting. It is a low carbon emission fuel source for us, and we believe that it's part of our future. So we're excited about those two units, and they're on an existing site, which is where most nuclear units are. I would say in the middle of nowhere. If you've ever driven to a nuclear plant, but what I would say, this is an interesting concept about siting, whether or not that is a generation asset or a transmission asset or a substation. what we ask our employees who do that work to do is to think about the communities, right? Because they'll do what I do believe about our siting process is that it is blind to all of that stuff, right? They just the engineers get in a room, they put their heads down and they figure out based on all of the factors, the best place to site it from a completely operational standpoint. And then what we ask people to do is add an equity lens to that, right? Let's just make sure that while it felt like it was a completely race neutral or community neutral process, we didn't end up with a result that unintentionally impacted a historically disadvantaged community. And so we have some great people working at Georgia Power. I believe that when they make these decisions, they are trying their best to do it from a kind of purely operational standpoint. But I think that it's incumbent upon all of us to really understand how what may feel and seem like a completely neutral decision has detrimental impacts on historically disadvantaged communities. And I think that's what we have to ask us to do in everything that we do, is that it may look neutral and it may be neutral in the process you follow, but is the impact neutral? And if we think about that, we'll make better decisions.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you've clearly worked through a very holistic plan, embracing the community, thinking about the community, thinking about impact, as you said, and really trying to incorporate it into multiple aspects of the process, the utility. And that's fabulous. And I think we've seen in a lot of places in the country and the world that those kinds of efforts can work and can really have some impact. I want to sort of shift direction, though, a little bit. I mentioned earlier, right, a lot of the federal government, the current administration, as well as some of the states, have tried to focus on justice in various ways. Just last week, U.S. Treasury released proposed regulations about tax credits, a notice about tax credits that are geared towards energy communities, aka energy justice communities, at least in terms of historic employment in oil, gas, and coal. If not racial impact. From your vantage point, is this kind of top-down approach effective, or do you get more mileage out of the more, perhaps less quantitative, more qualitative approach that you all have been using at Southern Co?
I think it takes both. We are excited about the federal government thinking about these particular issues, and what I would say is what that then does is it rewards the companies that are really in communities that are really thinking about this more broadly and holistically in terms of equitable impact, right? And so we enjoy the fact that, or not enjoy, but we think it's good that we can have a really great impact from the federal government and we can think about it too. And the question is, how do we meet? So, for example, the used electric vehicle purchase tax credit in the IRA, it'll make the transition to electric transportation available to more customers. And on our side, what we have to do is work with those customers to make sure they know it's available and talk to them about how they can use that. That's those customers that are struggling with fuel costs and maintenance for their vehicles to be able to get electric vehicle. We can have the charging infrastructure that they need in the communities where they are. That's a win-win for everybody. And there's, of course, a lot in IIJA that allows us to expand that charging network. And so I think it takes both. I think it takes the government making resources available to us, and it takes communities and businesses like Georgia Power and Southern Company subsidiaries working with our customers to help make those resources real to them. But yeah, we think it's a really, really great thing.
Well, Bentina, thank you so much for your insights. This was terrific. Really appreciate your time and thank you for joining us here.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it. As you can see, I'm passionate about energy and I'm also passionate about equity. So I really enjoyed this conversation because it was the opportunity to really talk about both. And thank you for everything you're doing to make sure people are hearing about what's going on in sustainability.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And thank you, everyone in the audience, for joining us for this episode of Sustainable Outlook. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sustainable Outlook. To listen to past episodes and receive notices for new episodes, subscribe by searching Hub Talks, that's HUB Talks, in your favorite podcast app. We hope you will tune in next time to learn more about the outlook of the burgeoning sustainable economy.